Coming up on Tech News Today, it's iPhone launch day lunacy. Also, Facebook causing friction, and the music download business has been saved, we think. All that more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, September 21st, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by the new Squarespace. Squarespace introduces a new content management system, making it faster and easier to create a high-quality website or blog, plus more than 50 new features, including mobile responsive designs. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT9. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your iPhone, iPad, MacBook, or Android smartphones. Find out what your gadget is worth and get cash to upgrade to the latest iPhone at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show that keeps you up to date on the most important stories of the tech news world, starting with the top 10 stories of the day in the news fuse. Jump, little Sonic. Today is the big day. Thousands of marketing professionals and paid students lined up in front of Apple stores in the hopes of being interviewed by national and international media outlets. Coincidentally, the new Apple iPhone 5 went on sale inside the Apple stores and began shipping to those who pre-ordered it.
The grumblings about Apple's iOS 6 maps is Nokia's gain. At least that's what the company is hoping. It posted a blog entry touting its own location platform, Nokia Drive, and mapping platform, Navtech. Nokia's forthcoming Lumia 920 smartphone will feature both, but they're also being used by Yahoo, Microsoft Bing, and Amazon. In a little bit of a dig at Apple, Nokia assured users, quote, "We truly understand that maps and location-based apps must be accurate, provide the best quality, and be accessible basically anywhere. There's been a standard practice at Nokia for the past 6 years. We also understand that pretty isn't enough."
Accuracy in maps, that's just wacky, Nokia. By the way, the next time you travel, you might want to ask, is that an Airbus or a Boeing? Because Boeing is adding in-flight Wi-Fi and mobile connectivity in more of its planes by the end of 2013. Wireless media streaming is also coming to all new Boeing planes in 2014.
The Well has new owners. The site, which has been an online home of a community, started back when the X-Files was cool in 1995. Salon Media Group sold The Well to a company called The Well Group, which is made up of long-term members of the community. Now, the new owners will get to keep the awesome domain name of well.com.
Swiss railway operator SBB and watchmaker licensee The Mundane Group have noted the similarity between Apple's new iOS 6 clock icon and the Swiss railway clock designed by Hans Hilfiger in 1944. In cool-headed Swiss fashion, neither company is blustering. SBB said it's proud to see its design used, and Mundane cheerfully believes the three companies, quote, "can together achieve something positive. We'll see how this all ends up." Sounds kind of Swiss threatening, doesn't it?
They're just mellow about it, but they're mad. Crowdsourcing platform Kickstarter has announced new guidelines that offer added protection against fraud in response to concerns that projects aren't always doing right by their financial backers. In a blog post, the new provisions spell out how require creators to disclose any risks and challenges that a project faces, like potential production delays or escalating material costs. New Kickstarter campaigns may also no longer use simulations or renders to illustrate what a completed project will do. Instead, creators must provide photos or video of prototypes as they exist at the time of posting.
I haven't talked about patents in a long time, so let's do it right now. Apple lost a couple of patent cases to Motorola and Samsung in Germany. The court said that Samsung and Motorola did not infringe on a patent related to touchscreen functions. Reuters said Motorola didn't comment about the victory, but I'd bet they said, woohoo!
At EUSec West Mobile Pwn-to-Own contest, security researchers MWR Labs hacked into a Galaxy S3 remotely over NFC, delivering a malicious file automatically opened by the Android document viewer. Now, the team then exploited 2 zero-day vulnerabilities to get full rights on the device. Researchers from Certified Secure hacked into an iPhone 4S through a vulnerability in WebKit, and both teams got an awesome $30,000.
Facebook's manager of media partnerships, Andy Mitchell, told journalists Thursday that Facebook is moving away from passive sharing, referring to apps that automatically share user activity on Facebook. Apps that used passive sharing saw big bursts of traffic initially after the feature was launched, but then usage fell off dramatically, so they're going to try something else now.
In other Facebook news, the company has finally satisfied the European Union by disabling facial recognition tagging. Facebook, which was subjected to an audit by Ireland's Data Protection Commissioner, was under pressure to implement a variety of changes across Europe dealing with privacy and security issues. Facebook has now turned off the feature for all European users, and the company will also delete templates for existing users by October 15th.
I like that Facebook makes people happy by taking away things. Like, you don't want that.
Yay!
Thank you.
Want to take a quick second to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this episode of Tech News Today. It is faster and easier than ever to create the best website or blog you have ever created with the new Squarespace. Have you heard about this? From a technical perspective, it's a completely new product, actually. It has a whole different code base, uses the latest web technologies, HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, but you almost don't even really need to know about that. If you're not a coder, if you don't know CSS, the new Squarespace is actually the best experience for people who don't have a lot of design talent, but really want a site that looks awesome. Squarespace has a variety of templates that you can start with to just get going. And they're beautiful. Now, what's also nice is that the new templates are mobile ready. Now, we all know that people are looking at your Squarespace blog on a variety of different devices, so that's really, really important. Your site automatically restructures to any size device, so you don't have to worry about having different versions of your site for different folks. Designs are seamlessly and transparently baked into every master template. The templates, 100% drag and drop functionality, a lot of customization tools. Now, if you do like to code, don't worry about it. Squarespace will let you do that. It just wants to give everyone the option to create a great website or blog. And let's face it, there are more of us that don't do a lot of CSS than those who do. So we're not left out of it. New Squarespace gives you really good social media integration. You can automatically import, sync, and publish to and from social media with just a few clicks. So you've got this dynamic site, even if you're not blogging every day or you're not updating your regular website, you've got a lot of stuff ported in from where you are active. Great design, award-winning team, and user experience experts. I can say with full conviction that I have had great experience with their support. I have gotten a hold of them at all hours of the night, and they've always been extremely prompt about getting back to me. And one more thing, your Squarespace site isn't going to go down. I mean, if you've got a popular site, you want people to look at it, right? You don't want to be up and down. You want to be solid, and Squarespace will do that for you. So here's what you can do. You sign up for a free account. Totally free. You don't need to have your credit card. You don't have to be worried that you're going to get charged. Just try it out. Start building your website. Then if you want to purchase it, you use the offer code TNT9. What's that going to get you? 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. That includes monthly and annual plans because you've got a couple of options when you decide the plan. Don't forget, you can also get free domain registration with annual plan subscriptions. Again, that's squarespace.com. Sign up for a new account, try it for free, and use that offer code TNT9. And we thank Squarespace for sponsoring this episode of TNT.
Okay, Sarah Lane, that iPhone 5 launch, but gone off without a hitch, right? No problems, no issues, no scandals.
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned scandal because in Sydney, Australia, which touts itself as the world's, whoever gets the first iPhone in that line is kind of getting the world's first iPhone. Although I think there is another city in Australia that gets it first.
Cupertino gets it first. I'm pretty sure Tim Cook has it.
Stupid international dateline.
You know what I mean? To the general great unwashed of the, the public, the global
dirty,
public.
Dirty public.
Yeah, in fact, Gizmodo's headline reads, and it caught my eye this morning, iPhone 5 launch scandal. Apple accused of ignoring Q to find its own first owner. So I went, what? What happened? So here's what happened. There was a team of guys from a company called Mobile Phone Finder, which is a phone comparison website, for-profit company, that decided, okay, we're going to camp out outside the George Street Apple Store in Sydney for as many days as we need to make sure that we're first in line, we stay first in line. We're going to say that we've got the world's first iPhone 5, and then we're going to give it away to one of our readers. So it's a promotional thing for them. So It turns out that there was a couple, a man and a woman, who were about 30 people back in the same line, who had said, yeah, we camped out for the 4S. We kind of do this, but we don't need to be first. We like the whole spectacle. We bring our sleeping bags and a little cooker, and we have fun for a couple of days, meet some people. Turns out, once everybody went inside, and the couple who were 30 people back or so went in that first rush, they ended up walking out with their phones earlier, and the folks from Mobile Phone Finder said, the Apple people were deliberately kind of giving us the runaround and taking too long and holding us back deliberately because they wanted some sort of shiny, happy couple to be the first people to get their pictures taken and get into the newspapers as having the first iPhone. And that really makes us mad. And what's going on here, is Apple trying to skew this all to, I don't know, pick the kind of people and faces that they want representing people who wait in line for iPhones. So I thought, well, that's strange, but I guess Apple does a lot of that already. They do a lot of handpicking. They can do what they want. Another journalist from ZDNet who happened to be at that same Sydney store said, I talked to these guys. In fact, I talked to the guy who was from Mobile Phone Finder who was waiting in line first. And he's got logos everywhere. And when I interviewed him, he only wanted to talk about the product. He really didn't want to talk about the fact that he was waiting in line for Apple at all. So it's probably Apple saying, yeah, you're not really going to ride our coattails just to get a bunch of publicity for your company, at least not as the people holding up the iPhone being first. And it got me thinking, what does this mean for companies like TaskRabbit, who are totally waiting in line for people in San Francisco? TaskRabbit is a company where you can pay somebody to do a task that you don't want to do. I don't want to say menial because sometimes they're important, but things like, pick up something for you, do laundry.
They just did IKEA shopping for me.
IKEA awesome. Shopping, clean your house. It's basically people saying, I've got some time, what do you want? I'll set my price, and we make a transaction. In fact, a friend of mine has someone from TaskRabbit who got up to wait in line at the Apple store downtown in San Francisco at 4 a.m. from 4 to 8. Paid this person, I think, $100. And I was like, that's it? $100 to wait in line for 4 hours in the middle of the night? That seems like not that much money, but it was worth it to him because he said
$25 an hour.
Well, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah.
Weird hours to be making that.
I figure like, you got to get up at 3:30 and get down to that 4. So this is something that's going on, but I don't know. I wonder. I guess Apple can't really shut this down. It's sort of like you can't really get rid of scalpers. It's the sort of thing that just kind of happens when you have a demand for something. What do you guys think? Is this kosher? Does Apple have the right to say we're not going to let you guys benefit too much off of this?
Well, I can see it from both sides. Obviously, Apple, it's their party, and they get to decide, how they're going to throw it. And if the Mobile Phone Finder guys are just looking for some PR for their Mobile Phone Finder website, finder.com.au, and they make a big kerfuffle about Mobile Phone Finder,
right?
Maybe they got their PR anyway. Maybe it just wasn't what they expected or wanted.
Just make sure the person that's going out for TaskRabbit isn't wearing a bunch of logos like a Samsung T-shirt or something, I guess. You don't want to get kicked out. It's just...
Oh, they will.
It's just this,
they absolutely will.
This idea that, okay, well, this is... If Apple's going to tick off its consumer base, theoretically, and this is this kind of publicity they want to have, don't forget, not just this company's getting some bad publicity. If Apple was, handpicking who gets to take the product first, I guess they can do that. But if that's the way you want to be treated by a store, you might not want to go back there. But then again, Apple doesn't care. They're going to sell millions of this thing anyway.
Tom, I don't know. What do you... I'm starting to feel like the whole waiting in line for the iPhone is less about the people who want one so badly that they love the spectacle, they love the community of it all, and more just a marketing opportunity for other companies.
Yeah, I think Apple should try to get rid of the line. For a while it was kind of fun and it was interesting and new, but it's not worth covering anymore. It's not a new thing. It shows a breakdown in the ability to efficiently serve the retail market. Apple a few years ago took pre-orders where you could reserve your thing at the store. Now, you still had to line up to go pick it up, but it shouldn't be about fighting to get in line. It shouldn't be about spiking the results to show the first person. And frankly, it's not that interesting to go interview the people who are buying this phone anymore. It's the sixth one. So I think this is silly. I see it more as a failure of Apple retail that we have these lines and these controversies. There should be a better way to get these things in people's hands.
Absolutely. I think what we should do is take kind of the model that BART and the DC Metro have adopted, where there's a turnstile, you slide your BART card in, and it lets you pass. And so this should just let you pass and hand you an iPhone on your way out. Everybody just queue up. Make it
Yeah.
paralyze the operation. Just slide your Amex through and walk out with a phone.
Now, speaking of controversies involving Apple, we talked yesterday about the shortcomings of the new Apple Maps. Nokia taking advantage of all the attention on Maps to say, hey, we actually have the best maps. Forget Google Maps or Apple Maps. We've got NavTech. We have Nokia Drive. We've been doing this for years. We're actually a mapping company. Remember, they bought NavTech a few years back. So they posted a comparison. And I think they shot themselves in the foot a little bit by putting the Lumia 920 up against the Samsung Galaxy S3 and the iPhone 5. Problem being, you can't buy the Lumia 920. So nobody can go out and buy this phone right now and decide, hey, you're right, this map is better. But in their post, they were actually very honest about the capabilities of the different mapping situations. They said all this cannot be built overnight. Unlike our competitors, which are financing their location assets with advertising or licensing mapping content, we own, build, and distribute mapping content platform and apps. And put a chart. And they admitted Google Maps is better at traffic. It covers more traffic areas right now. You don't really have 3D on Nokia. You have something called City Lens for augmented reality. But overall, they really beat the other two in every category, and they're not hyping it up. It's actually true. These are maps used by Yahoo. They're used by Microsoft. They're used by Bing. They're used by Amazon. So this is a real mapping company. But I don't know that this helps them. I mean, does this help them if you can't go and buy the phone that they're featuring in this? I mean, you can use those maps in other cases.
No, I mean, it's just like the mobile phone finder guys. It's an opportunity to tout your product and say, you know, there's some buzz about this one thing and it's kind of related to the other thing that you do. So, you know, toot your horn. Although, you know, to say that's the only option as far as like free maps, like, oh, come to Nokia. It's like nobody's going to switch their phone because of the philosophy of like, you know, licensing on maps or whatever. In fact, you could even go and access the openstreetmaps.org, which is licensed under the Open Database license. It used to be under Creative Commons, and that's free and open mapping.
That's also part of the data that Apple's using for their own maps. So I feel like, this is opportunistic by Nokia. I don't think it's a bad idea. Reminding people, hey, we've got our own maps technology. Other companies are using it. Other companies think it's superior to some of their other options. And pretty soon you'll be able to see it for yourself on the Lumia 920. I also think that this maps issue with Apple is going to blow over. I think that particularly if they announce an iPad mini as expected, that's going to get, and plus with a bunch of people getting not only iPhones today, but over the next couple of weeks, and then you start talking about that. And I just feel like the maps thing right now it's certainly an issue. It's a clear issue. Leo and I talked about it on iPad a Day yesterday. But people don't tend to stay real mad about this stuff for long, especially since it's going to get better over time.
And the thing about Nokia was that they're saying that their map technology is better, they're more accurate. But I mean, the problem is the phone is not out, and unlike, this isn't like a GPS market we're talking about phones. So if people hate the Apple map, they're going to use another application for that. You can always just switch the app at that point. So is it worth it to take your phone and go, forget this, I'm going to dump this phone, take the ETF, and then move over to a Nokia phone? Or am I going to spend $3 for another app? So that's the thing. It's while Nokia does have some really great technologies in its location services, it's just so easy for people to go, well, this app sucks. I'm just going to get another one. Because when I saw what happened with the maps, I'm like, I'm just going to have Google Maps from Safari as a link, or use my GPS app that I already have.
All right, let's talk about Facebook getting rid of actually causing friction. They're moving off those frictionless apps. We talked about that in the news views.
Right, frictionless sharing was introduced last year from Facebook. It's that thing that lets Social Cam and like Spotify and the Washington Post to like post your activity without asking you each time. So like, Iyaz is listening to Britney Spears. It'd show up on my news feed right there. At a panel yesterday, Facebook's manager of media partnerships, Andy Mitchell, was saying the company no longer thinks the future is passive sharing. Last year, Mark Zuckerberg was all gung-ho about passive sharing. It's going to be the future. But apparently, user feedback wasn't strong. If you take a look at a chart, you can see Washington Post social reader. It lost tons of active users over a course of a year because of the, people think it's because of the frictionless sharing. Because it was sharing all this, like, what are you reading on the site? And if you're reading something embarrassing, it would show up. Facebook told BuzzFeed that they're continuing to work with publishers to build social readers. So you're still going to be able to have passive sharing. But they introduced something called the Shared Activity plugin, which debuted yesterday, and it allows developers to have a hassle-free way for Facebook users to control what activities do and don't automatically get published. So it looks like Facebook is stepping away from the, everything you do is shared, because it's not engaging people. And I think that's one of the things that made Facebook interesting. When you hit like, it was an active process. Do you think this is the kind of move that Facebook should be doing?
Well, I mean, if it's really hassle-free, I welcome it. I hated frictionless sharing in the way that you connect an app to Facebook. It's very easy to log into a variety of apps that way, and then it says, do you want Facebook to have access to all the stuff? And you kind of go, sometimes when you say no, then all of a sudden you don't get logged in, so you go, okay, yes, I guess. And then the Washington Post was a great example of something where I'm like, why is every single thing in my newsfeed now Washington Post articles? And it wasn't even necessarily people who were reading that. They were just clicking sort of halfway through and then backing back out of it. So really seemed spammy. And I think that the problem they were finding is that people were just like, okay, well, I don't want to see anything like this anymore. Just block this. So yeah, I guess it depends on how hassle-free it is for me to say, okay, selectively, I'd like to do this, but not this, when sharing with my Facebook network.
Or they could just put it all in a bucket, kind of like the, it's all about like the signal to noise and kind of the experience of the user. And so I remember, when games first came to the platform, everybody was like, all right, I don't want to get bit by a zombie or whatever it is, and it just kind of flooded everybody's feeds, and eventually that just became a bucket that you could turn off.
The other thing is, if you had that Facebook feed being flooded in, people didn't want to read it. It's like, so you're not going to go to the site anymore. You're like, well, no, Darren didn't really want to share that. Why is this even here? I don't want to see this. And it became this like, it hurt the function of Facebook, which is to find things when you're like, oh yeah, Sarah's interested in this song. She actually posted it actively. Now, that's totally different than the Spotify method of the old method of it's going to be instantly there. So I think the move is strong for Facebook, because then I might have a reason to go back instead of seeing this flood of junk that wasn't supposed to be
It's
there.
not really likes either. They're more like mess. Meh.
So this applies to really anything that's frictionless sharing. So for example, if I listen to something on RDO, it's not just going to automatically update that on my wall anymore.
If they allow the controls to be in the shared activity plugin.
Right. Or I guess it's up to me, right? I can say, just post it every time, or no, this might not necessarily be a great idea. I actually kind of think that's, some people say, oh yeah, I like that song that you listen to, and I didn't have to take any steps to say, hey, I found this new album and here's a great song. I just know that it's getting pushed to my Facebook feed. But yeah, I think selective sharing is the way to go.
We got more music news coming up in just a minute, but you know what? If you could tell folks about Gazelle.com, I'm getting my box ready that they sent me to pop my old iPhone in as soon as my new iPhone arrives at the door.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want the new iPhone and you haven't already ordered it and the lines are scaring you, you might want to think about selling your new iPhone to Gazelle for cash. You're really trading it in, really. Cash you can use to upgrade to not only a new iPhone, but any old phone. We know that there are a lot of people who say, I don't want the iPhone at all. I want something else. You can do that with cash. Gazelle doesn't care what you spend it on. It's simple and fast. All you do is go to Gazelle.com. That's Gazelle, like the animal.com. And then you go through the process of telling Gazelle, okay, what do I have that I want to sell? And what condition is it in? Is it banged up? Did I drop it a couple times? Did it slide down the street? Has it been run over? Or has it barely been touched? Is it still in the box? They'll even buy broken iPhones for cash. So don't worry if you're like, oh gosh, this isn't going to be worth anything. They've got refurbishing stuff going on behind the scenes, so they will consider everything. Then you get a risk-free offer for your gadget. What's cool about that is that offer is locked in for 30 days. So if something changes within the next 29 days, you've still got that quote. So it's good. Once you get your new iPhone, for example, you can ship your old one to Gazelle. They'll even pay for the shipping. All you got to do is get the box, and then you'll get paid fast by check or by PayPal. Some people like checks. I like PayPal. So you've got options there. Go to Gazelle.com. Get your new offer for your electronics for free. Do it today, because as you know, things change quick in the smartphone world, and that iPhone may lose value every time that you wait. That's Gazelle.com. ELLE.com. And we thank them for sponsoring this episode of Tech News Today. Tom, what are you holding up there?
That's the box they sent me. The shipping label on the front.
They even send you the box. That's the great thing. All you have to do is just figure out how to put the box in the mail.
That's not hard.
No, that's actually the easiest part. That's the
What you're
easiest
saying is if you can put a box in the mail, you can use Gazelle?
That's right.
That was simple. Just in case you didn't know.
Use this to seal the box.
Like they're like, look, we're doing everything possible to make sure that this is as idiot-proof as possible.
I actually have a bit of a computer museum at my house that's getting more and more out of control just because we go through a lot of gadgets. And I kind of think I'm going to get a pretty penny for all of the stuff on Gazelle because by itself, not a lot of these things are worth too much, but collectively, I could buy 2 iPhones.
You and your 80 iPhone.
Woo!
3s.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm going to do that. Hey, should we move on to some research? We like to do this on Fridays.
Yes, I love research.
I know you
Let's talk
do.
about research.
Well, this is actually kind of interesting because new research by NPD Group, they do a lot of studies, which was first reported by Digital Music News, says 38% of free Spotify users, so not people who pay, but the free users, report buying a song download in the past 3 months compared to 17% for non-users. So you say, well, wait a second. So more people are downloading music that have access to streaming music services than those who don't. How does that work? Well, Spotify has its own built-in download option, so that's certainly part of it. If you like something, you're a free user. Maybe because you are a free user, you don't have access to sync to your mobile phone, and you think, I'm just going to buy the album so that I can have it everywhere, and I'll sync it to my phone, and then I can play it wherever I want, and I don't have to worry about being connected to the internet or syncing offline, which Spotify and other services can do. But also Spotify says that typical annual revenue taking from its subscribers is $120 a year, and that's way above what non-streamers are paying for downloads. So in either case, Spotify is saying people who stream more music buy more music. It's just that simple. And that's sort of Spotify's great defense against the music industry that says if people are streaming music, then they already have those albums and they're not going to be buying them. The reason I think this story is interesting is because this trend just does not reflect my behavior at all. I pay $10 a month for streaming music. The reason that I pay is because I want offline syncing and I want mobile syncing. I don't even really listen to my streaming music on my computer as much as I do when I'm on a walk or maybe when I'm at the gym on my iPad. And I don't buy anything. I do not buy music anymore because why would I? Because I'm already paying that $10 a month. So I can kind of understand why Spotify would say, it doesn't really matter if we've got some free users who are never converting to the paid model, which obviously is in Spotify's interest, because we kind of appease the music industry at the same time by saying, look, these free users of ours are still downloading music because they are limited on our network.
Now, this study actually does reflect my behavior because I'm a free Spotify user. And what happens is after a while there were supposed to be some limitations that the free users were going to have on Spotify. Like you were supposed to only be able to listen to one song like 5 times in a week or a month or something. And they haven't implemented that yet. But I found that I was getting frustrated with all the ads that were in there. So I'm like, I like this album enough. I'm going to go buy it. At least I can listen to it without any ads. I can move it around. That was the other thing. Spotify isn't on every one of my devices. So I might as well be able to take an MP3 that I have, put it on something like a Pogo plug, and be able to access it anywhere I want from any device. And when I was using Spotify free, I noticed one of the albums I really liked went away for like 3 months because there was some kind of dispute. I'm like, okay, and it's gone. I almost bought the CD because you couldn't find it digitally anywhere. So this kind of confused the heck out of me. So now I'm going to download it today because I don't want to lose the tracks. So I like using it as a discovery mechanism. And if I play a song like I will, to death, I'm going to buy that song because I don't want it to get interrupted by another ad. So this is exactly the way I use Spotify.
You want to talk about streaming services and discovery of music and actually purchasing. I'm the one of the 4 that's not using Spotify.
Well, I'm not either. I'm using Rdio, but same idea.
Okay. Well, I'm just using Pandora. Right. But it's all about what I feel like is the barrier to entry as far as getting that instant gratification. It's like, oh, I love this song. I've heard it a couple of times now. I want to keep this. And so I click the buy thing and it's through Amazon and I get the DRM for music. Yeah, right through Pandora. I've done it a ton lately because it's really easy and I've been finding new bands this way. And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, I could pirate this, but that requires copying and pasting the name of that into this app and then finding a torrent and all of those other things. And it's like, no, now just give them money and then my problem is solved. I'll have the music and everything will be happy.
I'm paying for convenience.
Yeah.
People still do that apparently.
Yeah.
I feel like we pay for RDO as a way to just sort of enjoy music serendipitously. I listen to other people's playlists. I just kind of, find stuff on a whim. And then if I really like it, I go buy it, download it, and then put it on my phone to listen to in the car on a playlist that I manage. So I don't know if that's rational, but I definitely am doing the same sort of behavior myself.
Well, I don't know what to say, Tom. Frankly.
Playlist? I'm so offended, Tom.
I'm pretty shocked. NPD also said, don't worry, because Apple still continues to dominate, at least in the U.S. Paid music downloads in the second quarter of 2012 took 64% of digital sales, 29% of all recorded music sales, regardless of format. So music downloads still continue to sit on top of streaming services. It is just interesting that streaming services, I mean, if you look at the data, it doesn't seem to be pulling away from record companies making money off of people buying music. All right, should we move on to a little nefarious behavior by Twitter that's got everybody in a frenzy?
It might not be nefarious behavior. It turns out, so if you use IFT, now IFT is if this, then that, it allows you to have an action do something. In this particular case, it would be like sending a tweet to Evernote. That's kind of fun thing where you could actually archive everything. Well, you won't be able to do that so much anymore as of September 27th. The IFT CEO, Lyndon Tibbetts, sent out an email saying on September 27th, we will be removing all Twitter triggers, disabling your ability to push tweets to places like email, Evernote, and Facebook. All personal shared recipes using a Twitter trigger will also be removed. Recipes is the name for their workflows. Tibbetts cited Section 4A of Twitter's API terms that disallow uploading Twitter to cloud-based services and enforcement of developer display requirements. But TechCrunch noticed that IFT has been in violation of Twitter's API rules for months, and it's not related to the latest API changes. It's just that this 4A thing of not allowing you to do uploads to cloud services. A lot of things are being more enforced these days with Twitter's changes. I'm kind of annoyed by this because I love IFT. As more and more services like this are on the wrong side of Twitter API terms, are we going to just see people just backing off of Twitter and using other services to I guess, fill in the gap?
What, like app.net?
App.net?
When's the last time you went to, well, you didn't even sign up.
I don't use app.net.
Yeah, I mean, I did, and I don't want to say that it's not a good service. I don't see mass exodus from Twitter. I don't. I see people who perhaps use IFT to engage in action that Twitter's a part of, saying, "Well, that sucks. Okay, I'm a little inconvenienced by this, but it's not really the end of the world. If I was IFT, I'd be
Miffed.
I would be miffed. Yes, that's exactly what I would
Miffed
be.
to be IFT.
Well, it's scary, right? Because it's like their whole business model is based on having two services that don't talk to each other very easily. In fact, I use it to back up every single photo I post on Instagram to a folder on Dropbox, just because there's no really good way to export stuff in bulk off of Instagram. It just makes me feel better about my stuff, my pictures that I care about. If Instagram were to say, yeah, you can't do that anymore, or Facebook, I guess now, I'd be like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll try to figure out some sort of a workaround, but now I'm really inconvenienced. So that's kind of scary for a company that's based around kind of making people happy by customizing their services behavior.
Yeah, Twitter just seems like it's getting more and more passive. Like, it's just going to be like, this is the media we're showing you. This is all you can do with it. It's only at twitter.com. You can't move it around. We're only here. And if it becomes a destination, it becomes like a portal. Like
no,
in
I
the
hate
90s.
that. I feel like you're right. And I feel like Twitter has made like a 180 as far as, it's just the philosophy is concerned, where it's like, hey, it's not about the apps and the awesome API. It's about the restrictions now. And it kind of drives me crazy. Like, I understand restrictions to the API for certain, like, call limitations for like database reasons and technical stuff. But when it comes to like business model stuff, it really kind of just drives me crazy. And IFT seems like a really cool service. So I feel like, like Sarah's saying, like, looking for workarounds. I guess if you are a power user and this is actually really going to impact you, you can go over to github.com and look for Wenbot. It is an open source clone
Like
of
WHEN bot?
WHEN bot. And this is a personal IFT clone that you can run yourself that will basically do the same kind of stuff. And
it doesn't tap into the API?
I think it might do some screen scraping or something like that.
Okay, yeah. Interesting.
But
that's cool. I mean, I know that Twitter isn't wanting to become just a portal like Iyaz was talking about. They say, no, there are other things we want you to do with our stream. They point to things like Branch, and they point to their integration with media companies. And they don't want to be a dumb stream of content, but they want to be tightly in control of that stream of content and how it's displayed and where it's displayed. And I'm not sure that anybody's wrapped their head around what that means. I mean, Branch is an interesting experiment. I sort of get it. I sort of don't remember to ever go and look at it, though. I don't feel a desperate need for it. And I think the open API, the beauty of that is that you didn't have to know what you would be using Twitter for. You could just see what people were doing with it and go find it. And that's the brilliance of IFT. The brilliance of IFT was people are just coming up with crazy ways to make use of the Twitter feed. And now they won't be able to do that. And the IFT users aren't massive, so I don't think it's going to take a big chunk out of Twitter users, even if they all quit. But it is a very good example of what could be done with the more open API. And I'm sad to see that go.
I'm sad in the same way I was sad when like Yahoo Pipes left us, just because, it's the kind of like, it brings that new ingenuity of on the web, which, from people who may not, avoid main. It's a programming reference.
I had forgotten about Yahoo Pipes.
It was good
I
stuff.
miss it too.
I miss it.
IFT isn't going anywhere. This is just
Obviously didn't miss it that much. You forgot all about it.
App.net works on IFT, and you'll be able to post to Twitter from IFT still, but this is just one side of the function. So IFT is not going anywhere. Just this one function is going.
It's just that Twitter seems to be like, I mean, it is hacking all over the. I mean like hacking
Like
as
with
in
a
like
machete.
chop, like with a machete.
That's
Not
what
good
we
hacking.
do on my show, actually.
Bad
Slashing.
hacking.
Yeah,
Chopping off
slashing.
at the knee, slashing. It just this has all happened in such a short period of time that I feel like the publicity with every little story on its own is like, well, okay, I guess I can understand where Twitter's coming from, but that sucks.
Well, you look
but
at
there's just so much of it that people are like, wow, Twitter is awful.
Well, you look at it at the same time, it's like Twitter has exploded in the last couple of months, like doubled in size, and all of these changes happening at the same time. It's just like, maybe you could just kind of spell out your clear vision for your service instead of just like a little nudge here, nudge there. That kind of,
Well, they have. They've actually, gone to the press and they've posted on the blog saying this is what we want you to use the Twitter API for in the future, and this is what we don't. So people don't like it. It's because it's changed. The fact of the matter is Google Plus doesn't have an API. I mean, they have an API, but it doesn't let you do hardly anything with it. So, and granted, Google Plus isn't as popular as Twitter right now. But people, while they're upset with that, they aren't really pissed off at Google about that because it's not a change. Whereas what Twitter did is they took something away from you. They're saying, oh, you can't do that anymore. And that always causes more ill feelings than just not giving someone something in the first place, I feel like.
The chat room wants us to know that Yahoo Pipes is not dead.
Okay.
They're logging in, so it's available if you want to use Yahoo Pipes. I know they changed it from 1 to 2.0 and things broke. But
yeah.
But
you know who hasn't restricted their API? I'm just going to throw it out there, is Identica. If anybody
I
remembers
just logged
that.
into Identica yesterday when I was setting up my new laptop.
No way. That's
Because I was
awesome.
using Wibber.
They were probably wondering who it was that logged in.
Yeah, that was me.
Maybe you get a prize.
Identica and a ping user.
Well, there's Identica. There's app.net gets a lot of attention, and there's Diaspora as well. The Diaspora project is essentially Google Plus, except before Google Plus existed, and totally open. So there's lots of alternatives out there. Just none of them have really captured the widespread attention of an app.net or a Twitter. Let's finish off with Kickstarter changing its guidelines for how you can fund your projects with a big post that says, Kickstarter is not a store. I think they're trying to head off the issues you have at retail when you buy something and you don't get what you asked for and you want to return it. That's not what Kickstarter's about. Kickstarter's like saying we are here to fund an enterprise. An enterprise may or may not always work, but we're trying to mitigate the risks up front. So here's what they're doing. Product simulations are prohibited. Projects cannot simulate events to demonstrate what a product might do in the future, and products can only be shown performing actions they're able to perform in their current state of development. So you can't mislead people by showing them some whiz-bang awesome thing and then not delivering that later. You can only show them actual prototypes. Creators have a new page they have to fill out called Disclosure Risks and Challenges, explaining what might prevent them from fulfilling on the promise they're making and how they're qualified to overcome those challenges. And no multiple quantity rewards for high dollar backing. Some Kickstarter projects have said, you know what, if you give us $1,000, I'll give you 100 of the product. Can't do more than one of anything unless it's a set, like an Arduino project that has multiple parts or something like that. They make allowances for that, but they're like, we don't want you to just sell big lots of items. Is this the beginning of the loss of the cool wide openness of Kickstarter, do you think, or is this just rational and reasonable safeguards?
I think it's rational and reasonable. Kickstarter started off as, oh, that's a good idea for a few projects that are creative and interesting, but they just can't independently get off the ground, and crowdsourced funding, and it's gotten so much attention. And I know that Kickstarter isn't the only company that provides the infrastructure for people to raise funds to make cool things. But it's certainly the one that has been exploited the most. I will not name this person, but just this morning, a friend of mine said, hey, I started a new Kickstarter. Can you tweet about it? And I looked and I was like, I don't even, what is that? What? I don't even know if you know what Kickstarter really does. So it's not necessarily always people trying to rip anybody off. I just think that there are a lot of really good Kickstarter projects, but there are also a lot of Kickstarter projects that aren't thought through enough. And when you turn into a backer who spends money on something and nothing is followed through, or it's not followed through in the way that you were expecting, that's not good either. That's just going to turn into kind of a mess for Kickstarter. They don't want to spend their resources trying to appease ticked off people who had bought into an idea that didn't come to fruition. So I think it just kind of makes sense.
It seems like a really good clarification for what Kickstarter is, because I know when Ouya came out, I was going back and forth. Should I get it? Should I not? I was talking over with Tom, actually. I'm like, well, is this something I should put money for? I don't know if it's ever even going to come out. It could be a flop. What if it doesn't work? And then Tom was saying something simple, like, then wait for it to come out as an actual product. I'm like, that's what I should do, because Kickstarter is not a store. And the thing is, a lot of people, like, when I saw the Pebble Watch, I'm like, that's another thing I want to get. But they don't exist yet. So that's, like, if you can be clear up front, then you can go, okay, well, that's why you put money into this. You're backing a project. You're not buying a product necessarily, because it might not ever work.
And make it seem more investor side. I think this is great, especially for, like, you know, the whole indie game scene. Maybe we'll stop seeing, you know, indie game trailers without any code behind them. That'll be great.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you've got a product, let's see it. You take a lot of nice pictures, you make a video, whatever, but I don't want to see a simulation of what is your pie in the sky idea that isn't actually happening.
Yeah, see, I've funded 2 Kickstarters all the way to fruition where they're like, you know, and gotten them in hand and seen them actually do really successful afterwards. And those are always like, you know, the ones that that give me the warm fuzzies, because, you know, you actually see somebody like, you know, do some really good stuff within the hacking community, as the 2 examples I have. And actually, I just visited one of the manufacturers that do this in Santa Cruz, and it's really cool to see, you know, that stuff actually, like, you know, suddenly they're in development, you know, with the factory making the stuff, and but with everybody that I know that's ever, like, gone through the Kickstarter process, it's always been the I had no idea how much time this was going to be. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a lot of Kickstarters that get off the ground, get a lot of great funding and momentum and everything, and then suddenly there's the realization of, wait, I have to do this now? It was really easy to make the website.
Yeah, my idea was solid.
Yeah.
The execution is hard.
Was great.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the first comment on their blog post was somebody who's like, oh, so if I make a game board, I can't show a picture of the game board. I have to actually make the game board. And the Kickstarter's like, no, that's fine. If you read the rules very closely, we make exceptions. We're talking about products, like demonstrable products. We're not talking about design. It's a totally different thing. Your game board is fine to put up there. So I think they are being very conscientious about this, saying we don't want to get in people's way. We just want to set the expectations correctly. And don't forget, there's also others out there. There's Indiegogo and lots of others. If you don't like what Kickstarter is doing, you can always try a project somewhere else. But I think it is good for them to emphasize that they are a funding platform, not eBay, because I think a lot of people are starting to treat them like that. Well, let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Nestle is embedding GPS in chocolate bars. So when you take a bite of that Kit Kat, make sure you haven't swallowed a GPS device. Is that how this works? Actually, no. It's a We Will Find You promotion in the UK, like a real-world Willy Wonka competition, says PSFK.com. They are fitting chocolate bars with GPS trackers. I'm sure they're large enough that you won't swallow them. And when a lucky person opens their wrapper, it will activate and notify the prize team, who will locate them within 24 hours and deliver a check for 10,000 British pounds sterling.
I'm so surprised that this is happening in Britain, because they're all about the privacy laws. And it's like, you didn't know when you went into the transaction of buying the chocolate bar. Is it like a shrink wrap license where they actually write the EULA on the inside of the wrapper? And it's like, you open the wrapper, you agree to the license, we are going to mob you now.
Do you think that anybody would be like, hey, I've got a privacy issue with this, but I would still like my 10,000 British pounds sterling?
Maybe they just wanted chocolate and you're like, dude, I paid for 4.5 ounces of chocolate, and I only got like 2 because you had this stupid GPS, and it wasn't a tasty GPS either.
I broke a tooth.
Yeah,
it's worth more to me than your stupid money. I also
it doesn't say in this article where they affix the GPS. I'm guessing it's the wrapper, right?
Yeah, they're not going to have you.
I'm surprised too. It's GPS, because it's like, really, do they mean a positioning system, or do they mean GPS? Because it's like, when you open this inside, they're going to be like, don't know where you are.
Yeah,
they did with GPS trackers. It says
it's probably like an RFID that you have to tap things. It says it's posters fitted with NFC. There's like a picture of a guy holding up, I think, his phone to it, so you can find more information about these chocolates. I guess it just seems like it's a great promotion, because you're going to be very active.
Don't you think the name "We Will Find You" is a little strange? I mean, that sounds like a threat.
Well,
I think that like a helicopter on the billboard. It's like, we're tracking you down.
I think the guy's head's covering up the amount of money. That's what's really big in the text there.
I think that this should just be like a beta test for them. They should like really take this to the next level and put GPS in all of the chocolate bars. Send out a like street team that can like, we know that Tom here is a heavy chocolate user. We're just gonna follow him around and be like, so Tom, you want another? Huh? We got one right here for you?
They sell British candy bars at the grocery store right around the corner from my house here.
Oh, you get Aero, don't you?
So if I accidentally get one of these, do they have to come all the way to the United States, or am I
24 hours
disqualified? Yeah.
I guess as long as it's not a Kinder Egg. See, actually, I could imagine it being in a Kinder Egg, because it's a hollow eggshell with a toy inside.
And if it's a Yorkie and you're a girl, and the slogan of the Yorkie chocolate bar is not for girls, can you still win?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think
technicality.
I think that's actually part of the EULA of that bar.
Nestle's not thought this through at all. They're in a lot of trouble right now.
Well, isn't it strange that there's a 24-hour window? Like, what if you don't know? I mean, what do you do after you eat a candy bar? You throw it away, right?
It's a game of cat and mouse. This means if you get one now, run, because they will track you down and chase you. It's like, dude, get on the next flight to Sydney.
Well, obviously, if you see you have the tracker, Jason, you don't throw the wrapper away if you want the 10,000 pounds.
I guess, if you know to keep the tracker.
Why can't this be something the U.S. is doing?
I know, right?
I would just have so much fun gambling this way.
I
just
would actually come out and buy a Kit Kat.
One more chocolate bar. Well, it's open. I might as well eat it. I'm hungry. I bought it.
Well, but you can weigh them and tell,
If that were
right.
true, oh boy.
Before we spent more time talking about chocolate bars than we have any of the rest of our stories today, so let's move on to the calendar.
Let's move on. This isn't actually till next Tuesday, but I felt like giving RIM some love. They haven't gotten any love from TNT lately. Blackberry Jam America's Conference starts next week on the 25th and runs through the 27th, and it's going to be awesome. I actually don't know if that's true, but I'd like to think so. SpaceX is going to start International Space Station cargo runs on October 7th. Basically, the company and NASA are launching a Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, delivering the first of a dozen cargo loads to the ISS through the unmanned Dragon spacecraft. Pretty exciting.
Yay.
And finally, the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, has announced plans to deliver HTML5 by 2014. That's right. They haven't actually officially delivered it yet, and HTML 5.1 by 2016.
All right, let's check what's incoming.
Incoming message.
It's a message, and it's a voicemail, actually, about Google already having maps on iOS. Tell me more, caller.
Hey, TNT. About this Google Maps being replaced with Apple Maps, am I the only one who remembers that Google Earth is an iOS app that has all the same functionality as the old iOS Maps app? It's got the much better aerial photographs. It's got the same search database, and it's already an iOS app. So doesn't Google already have a mapping app? That's it.
Sort of. I've got Google Earth up on my iPad here, and yes, you can use it as a map. But it's a map. It's like a paper map. There's no turn-by-turn directions. There's no way that I can see, unless somebody's done a layer that I don't know about, to do directions at all. So it's not quite the same. It certainly doesn't have public transit or any of the other things people are complaining about on there.
It's close, but it seems like if Google modifies that app and just adds that functionality, they already have a built-in, fantastic-looking application that runs on iOS. They just need to modify it a little bit.
You know, the first thing somebody's going to do when they jailbreak the iPhone 5 is just find a way to port the old app into the new one. So then everybody will just do that.
Didn't somebody already do that yesterday? Jailbroken.
Well, there you go.
I don't know if
6.
it's not on iPhone 5.
Well, it wouldn't have been,
limited, a couple devices.
The only people who had iPhone 5s yesterday were viewers who don't want to get cut off next time. So they weren't doing any jailbreaking. All right.
Not that they were admitting, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We got an email from Justin. This is in response to our discussion yesterday about texting and driving. Justin says, my problem with texting while driving laws is that they punish such specific behavior while ignoring other distracting behaviors. I've seen people driving while reading books, really? Doing crossword puzzles, applying makeup, guilty, eating fast food, etc. If we're going to make new laws, they should regulate distracted driving in general instead of just one specific distraction. Of course, the real issue is that all these activities people would rather be doing instead of operating a car. The only thing that's going to solve it for good is when we get our driverless cars. Amen to that, Justin, although it's a ways off. And he's right. I have sometimes applied makeup in the car and then realized, you know what, I'm really not paying. You know, like I can't look at myself in my little rear view mirror on my visor and look at the road at the same time.
If you had a mirror on your
this is
forehead,
dangerous.
when you would look in the mirror above your windshield, you would see the road as well. It would just be backwards.
You know, I actually went and looked this up because I'm like, you know, it's got to be against the law to not pay attention while driving. And under California's vehicle code, anyway, a driver can be ticketed from $145 to $1,000 for having, quote, wanton disregard for the safety of persons or property. And so that of not looking where you're going while you're operating this, you know, several tons vehicle that's hurtling down the highway qualifies as wanton disregard for the safety of persons or property. And police in Los Angeles and other places have gone on campaigns where they go out and look for people who are putting on makeup or eating without paying attention to the road and not paying attention to what they're doing while they're driving. So that's already against the law.
Yeah, but it doesn't fit on one of those LED boards above the Bay Bridge as well as the texting ones, you know? Because at least those, they can tell you not to TXT while you DRV.
You can't has cheeseburger while driving.
But do you have to look at the cheeseburger? I feel like I'm really good at, you know, watching TV and eating without taking my eyes off the TV and driving sort of somewhere. I'm kind of kidding.
Some people wrote
I think that may be one of the reasons behind the texting law, right? Is people saying, well, of course, I'm not going to drive while distracted, but I'm really good at texting while driving. And it turns out no one is really good at texting while driving.
More than two eyes. I don't know how anybody could even say that.
Some people were saying,
are you looking at the road? Well, hands-free is a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
That's not so much the problem. Although then you get into the argument of, well, when even if you're on the phone, there's a little part of your brain that's not focused on the road. It's focused on your conversation.
You know, I've like really gotten into a song and been
but you're
jamming.
not talking
you know? Like,
back to the radio, right? You're not.
some people do that, but I think that's AM talk radio.
Yeah.
Or this show, perhaps.
A little bit of yelling.
That's it. Get it out right now. I know you're listening.
We got a bunch of emails, people saying that this is going to cause more accidents because instead of holding the phone up here, looking at the window.
Right,
They're going to hold it at their lap. They're looking down. They're constantly distracted. I mean, I have seen some texting apps that use the camera, the rear-facing camera, and put it behind the text. If you want to do something crazy like that, but I don't think that's.
Yeah, I don't think that's the answer.
Darwin's Law will take care of all of this anyway.
Nah, eventually. It's going to take a long time. I think the driverless cars get here first. I agree with Justin on that.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, for submitting stories at our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. A great place to go to just kind of look at what other folks in our audience are interested in and vote on your own. Even submit some links if you want. Appreciate everybody participating in there. Don't forget, our best of show is coming together because we're almost 3/4 of the way through the year. But if you find a moment while you're watching Tech News Today, you're like, that should go in the end of your best of show, send it to TNT at twit.tv with the subject line best of. Darren Kitchen, always good to have you, man. I've been missing you for a few Fridays. What's going on with Hack 5?
Oh, man, we have an awesome episode right now. Find out all about Cause's awesome ADB P2P attack. It's an Android attack that lets you plug your phone into another phone and then do a bunch of nefarious stuff like, I don't know, log into their Google account. That's good stuff. Head over to hack5.org to find all of that.
Check it out. And you can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. Our number is 260-TNT-SHOW. We will be back on Monday with an all-new show. And John Strickland, the Tech Stuff Podcast and How Stuff Works at Discovery. We'll see you then.